But before we start with the movie, ladies and gentlemen, we have got a very special guest to come up on stage. As you all know, it is the year 2017. 10 years ago, we were all extremely excited because finally we were getting, after years of rumors and speculations, the live-action Transformers movie. Anybody remember going to see it? Anybody remember sneaking into the midnight show? Yeah. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, before we start with it, I would like to invite on stage, if he is around, ladies and gentlemen, where is he? Is he around? He is around. There's arms waving. He's there. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage to introduce the 2007 live-action movie. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mark Ryan!
Always making a convention, and then I have to come and clean it up. Thank you so much for inviting me to come to this amazing gathering. We were just discussing it out there, considering the state of the world. If by all kinds of madness over the weekend there's actually a nuclear holocaust, I couldn't actually want to be in a better place. With you! Oh. Go in a blaze of glory together. Over the weekend, please feel free to come up, say hello, ask any questions that you may have. I'll answer them as honestly as I can because, you know, I have a vow to protect the guilty. But it's been 10 years of utter joy, really. We've had such an amazing time doing this, reinventing basically CGI in terms of the techniques for 3D and both shooting it in 70mm and all kinds of stuff. So it's been quite an adventure, and there are many stories and I'm happy to tell them, but just so you know how I got involved with this, so that you know you can hear it from the horse's mouth. I was doing a film in Ireland called King Arthur, and I was a swordmaster and fight director on the picture. And I was working with Antoine Fuqua and a lot of guys who were involved with, you know, the CGI world and all that kind of stuff. And Antoine's a very sort of intense, driven, technically brilliant director. And I got back to Los Angeles and I got this strange phone call from my agent. And he said, listen, he said, they want you to go and meet these folks about this film. They won't tell you what it's called. They won't tell you what it's about. But what they want to know is, can you do 5 voices at the same time in the same scene during the filming? I said, what do you mean? I mean, well, we'll send you some stuff, and they want you to be 5 different characters in this same scene. So I said, okay. So I went to this meeting with this casting office, and this very, very nice lady, I walked in, she was looking at my CV, she said, oh, you just worked with Antoine Fuqua, and, you know, on this huge King Arthur movie. I said, yes, what did you do? I said, I was a sword master in the fight director, and he was dealing with a lot of extras and a lot of action and things blowing up and this and that and the other. She said, oh, she said, so you work well under pressure. I said, well, it's not pressure if you're professional, you just kind of do it. She said, now what was Antoine like? Because I've heard that he's very demanding with the crew and he drives the set and he's very sort of, you know, he wants it all done, he's very intense. And I said, yeah, I got on with him really, really well, no problem, you know, I'm a professional, it's what I do for a living, so I'm always well prepared. She said, really? She said she got on well with the stunt guys, he gets on well with the sword guys. She said, that's very interesting. And I said, I'm a bit curious. She said, I said, this project, whatever this project is, which I don't know anything about, I said, is this an Antoine Fuqua project? because I'm a bit surprised they didn't contact me directly and say, come and have a chat. She said, no, it's not Antoine. No. It's Michael Bay. And I went, well, that's, I don't know him, but I know he's good at what he does and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, 2 weeks later, I find myself in a house in downtown Los Angeles looking at these line drawings of robots, Autobots, hiding underneath a suburban house in Los Angeles. I remember looking at the monitor, and Michael came over to me, and I was actually laughing. I was actually laughing at this. I went, this is very funny. And he said, can you see that? Can you, in your mind's eye, see what these robots would look like in our reality by looking at that? And I said, yes. And he went, great, you can have a lot of fun. And I can tell you that that is the way that this whole thing has developed. It's been an honour to work with the likes of Scott Ferrara and ILM. It's been an honour to work with Michael Bay's crew, which is the stunt crew, the best in the world, the military guys that he gets involved. What's this developed, the techniques, the technical advances that they've made while we've been shooting this. So I just want to thank you for going to see the movies, enjoying them, and keeping all of us in work for the last 10 years. And as I say, if you've got any questions, I'll be happy to answer them, chat with you, come up, say hello, and just thank you. And have a great weekend. And if nuclear holocaust does happen over the weekend, you will be amongst some of the best friends that you'll ever, So, is that what you want me to say?
That's lovely, yes.
So, thank you very much indeed.
Mark Ryan.
How are we doing? Having a good time? What you up to? No good, I'll bet.
You having a good weekend so far?
Yeah, it's been fantastic. I have to say, I've really enjoyed it. Everybody's been really nice and chill and friendly and cool. It's like a tribal gathering of a family. It's very interesting. It's nice. Very nice. Very gentle.
Yeah, the script reading was awesome as well last night. Who enjoyed the script reading last night?
We got it about an hour before we read it, which was kind of funny because some people missed the wrong time for some reason. So what you saw basically was more or less a total improvisation and reading of it on the spot. So it sounded like it was jumbled and we were stumbling through the lines. That's because we were.
But it sounded pretty good to us, I think. Okay, so a bit of background. What can you tell us about yourself? Where are you from?
I'm from Doncaster in Yorkshire.
Yes, South Yorkshire.
Donny boy. I grew up, basically when I left school, I was working the working men's clubs. I spent the first sort of 4 years of my life after leaving school working the working men's clubs all over Yorkshire, all over the northeast, Scotland, Wales, all over the place. And Birmingham, I actually did a couple of clubs here at one time as well, working men's clubs, social clubs. And that was a big scene, which where a lot of acts got their break, really, in learning how to, run a stage, be on a stage and talk to an audience. That's where we learned how to do this. And so that was the formative part, really, of my career. And then I started getting extra work at Granada and Yorkshire Television on things like Emmerdale Farm and Crown Court and Coronation Street, all that kind of stuff. And that's where I began to learn how a set works and the mechanics of all of that. And then decided to make the big leap to London in the mid sort of 70s. Went down there, did a little bit of studying at Italia Conti Stage School, and was literally, I got an audition for a show called Dean, about the life of James Dean. I played all the bad guys in James Dean's lives in all his films. I did a knife fight. That was one of the first times I'd done a live knife fight on stage. I played Buzz from Rebel Without a Cause. Which, funny enough, has got a strange linkage to the Transformers films, which I'll tell you about later on. From there, auditioned for a show called Evita, which was the biggest sort of musical venture amateur of the late 70s, 1978. Got that, was playing, I played McGaldy because I was the only person that could do a decent Tony Christie impersonation. If anybody knows, you know who Tony Christie is. Is this the way to Amarillo? All that kind of stuff. Sleep like a baby, my little lady. And then I did All This Time 1,000 Stars. I was the only guy that got to transition from playing McGaldy to playing Che Guevara, that was originally played by David Essex. Great guy, lovely guy, David Essex. And so that kind of was the cementing of that part of my career. And I was a friend of Lewis Collins. People may remember Lewis Collins from The Professional. God rest his soul, he passed away a couple of years ago. And they were doing some work for a film called Who Dares Wins, and I actually bumped into Lou in the Brecon Beacons, would you believe, because I was into all of that kind of thing then. And the director came to see me play Che Guevara, and I was cast in a film called Who Dares Wins. Anybody know, seen a film called Who Dares Wins? Nobody. Great, that's absolutely...
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who Dares Wins. And from there that really spun me off into Robin Sherwood. I got Robin Sherwood after that, and that was kind of changing.
So that was going to be my next question. Tell us a bit more about Robin Sherwood. I think there are a lot of people, that's kind of what you're really best known for playing Zia. So tell us a bit more about that. What was that like on set with that?
It's difficult to explain the effect not only that show had on us as individuals, and I want, so everybody knows, we understood we were doing something that was very different, that was groundbreaking, and that would probably outlive us all. And we were like the young lions of the film and television industry then. It was obviously Ray Winston, Michael Craig, Clyde Mantle. You know, it was these very ambitious young lads that were given the task of putting the show together as actors. But the genius was Richard Kit Carpenter, the man that wrote it. The real heart of the show was Kit. And I know this is kind of like show business legend, but it's really what happened. Ian Sharp asked me to, if I'd be interested in doing this show with Robin Hood. And I was kind of like, it's been done though so many times. He went, no, this is very different. And I was like, okay, obviously for you, I'll do it, let me know what you want me to do. And they said, well, it's not really a dialogue character, it's kind of a baddie, but it needs to be present, you need to bring something to this. So I went, okay, and originally the character was called Edwin the Archer. And they actually forgot all about me. Esther Charker, the casting lady, forgot that I'd agreed to do this. And they remembered at the last minute, so I drove myself up to Bamber. He told me to do Bamber down in Castle. So I drove up there, and I arrived, and Terry Morse, the stunt coordinator, said to me, can you do a sword fight with two swords, one in each hand? And I said, I've never tried, but I'll learn really quickly. How long have I got? He said, about 45 minutes. He was joking. And we actually had a week. And so Michael Craig and I went and rehearsed this sword fight. And we started filming, and Paul and Ian Sharp came and said, oh, by the way, he's no longer Edmund the Archer, he's Nazir the Saracen. I went, okay, it's, you know, Nazir the Saracen, Edmund the Archer, fine. So we've shot the first 2 episodes, and right at the end of it almost, the last week, Paul Knight, the producer, came to me in the bar where we were up in Addie filming, and he said, are you enjoying this? And I said, I'm having a great time. He said, all the lads like you get on well with everybody, everybody's like going, no, he's really good, don't really get one of us. Would you like to stay on? And I went, yeah, but they kill the character. He said, we'll fix that. Don't worry, we'll fix that. Of course, right, of course you can. And so he was supposed to die at the end of the episode when he's fought with Michael Craig. I'm just about to kill Michael Craig, and the lads come in and fill me full of arrows. And they didn't tell me till the day we were shooting. They changed the ending, so I didn't know what was going to happen. And right there, we did the sword fight. I'm just about to kill him, and Ian Sharp went, "Oh, forget that now. We're not killing him now. It's just going to be." And that's how he ended up being written into the show. And Richard Carpenter came to see, well, he called me actually, and said, I believe we've got you in the show now, you've been added in, you're going to be the new Merry Man. He said, have you got any thoughts about what you know about this period? And I said, well, funnily enough, I've just finished reading Sir Stephen Runciman's History of the Crusades. And there was a lot of interesting relationships between the Saracens and the Knights Templar. And I think Kit was like surprised that I even knew any of this stuff. We talked about a lot of exchanges, things like the astrolabe, navigation, medicine, various esoteric ideas were swapped between the cult of the assassins and the Knights Templar. So he said, but I haven't got any dialogue for you. He said, I've written in some of the episodes, there's no dialogue. What do you feel, how do you feel about it? I said, I don't need the dialogue. Give me the action. Give me the knife throwing, the archery, the tracking, the sword play. Give me that. I will make that work. Right? I'll make that work. It's a visual art form, television. It's not. You can have as much dialogue as you like, but if you don't look right, it doesn't work. So I said, forget that. Give me the physical stuff, the action, and I'll make it work. And so that's how Nazir, the silent Saracen, sword slinging, archery, flinging, nutter the village, was created. And it's very close to my heart. We are all still very close friends to this day. Ray Winston, Clive Mantle, Jason Connery, we all still talk to this day. We had a gathering literally 6 weeks ago with Clive Mantle for his 39th birthday or something. And we are still like the same today. And so it was 3 years of glorious, glorious filmmaking with the best people in the business.
And so you've later on become Swordmaster on various other shows. Was the Robin show where you kind of first took up that interest in the physical action and the sword fighting and daggers and things, or had you got a lot of experience even before that?
Well, I was one of those weird children that made swords in the metal room, made throwing knives and stuff like that in the metalwork room. And I did some sword play at theatre school for Shakespeare, so I understood that, the fencing side of it. But I always had an interest in all of that. So and I'd studied with a guy called Michael J, otherwise known as the Twinkie of Samurai, who was the only Japanese sword master, the Iaido master, and I'd done some work with him. So I knew the pointy end of a sword from the end that you hit people over the head with. And that it grew out of that. And it's like anything. On Robin, we did it every day for 3 years, like the archery. We trained for 2 weeks before we started shooting. We trained like mad things, and we did it every day, so you get good at it. And you get to understand other actors, you can train other actors, you get to work with the stunt boys. So, you just become good at it, and that's how I stumbled into that world, sword mastery world.
So how many of the stunts did you do yourself, or did you have a...
We did, on Robin, they wouldn't allow us now. We were just talking about this on the film I'm doing at the moment, and it's true, I'll maybe talk a bit about that later on. We weren't really doubled at all. In fact, Ray got what's called a stunt adjustment for doing a jump off the house through a roof of another house. When you see us all jump off the bridge into the river, that really was us. We did most of our own stunts ourselves. It wouldn't be allowed now. In fact, on one occasion, during one of the fights, they wanted me to jump off the horse and take off one of those guys. And so they decided they would double me. And so they brought in a stunt guy to double me. And he actually did, which I thought was the easiest bit, right, because the horse is standing still. He just stands on the horse's back, jumps off the horse, and knocks this guy over. And then when Terry said to him, now, we want you to roll between the horse's legs, right? The stunt guy went, I'm not doing that, it's too dangerous. I'm not doing that, I'll stand on it and cripple me. Terry came to me and he said, how do you feel about rolling between the horse's legs? I said, it's Pringle, I've been riding for 2 years, it'll be fine. So what you do, I went and talked to the horse, I know it sounds strange, and said, now, Pringle, just stand there, be a good boy, I'm going to roll between your legs, don't stand on me. Right now, talk to the horse, which I still do to this day. And the weird thing is, sometimes they talk back, which is, you know what I mean? Anyway, they let me do the rolling between the horse's legs. and the stuntman did the easy bit to jump off the back. So most of the stuff we did ourselves. Obviously the archery or the sword play and everything, we did all. We just got good at it because we could do it.
Awesome. And then from there you've gone on to do things like Black Sails, and there's that you've been helping out with on King Arthur as well.
With the swords, yeah. I mean, it's weird here because in Britain, I've been away now, I've been living in California for 20 years. So it's understandable people don't know what I've been doing. But for instance, I toured America. When I decided to make the move to Los Angeles, one of the first shows I did was Frasier. In an episode called Where Every Bloke Knows Your Name, which is one of the most popular episodes of Frasier ever. So I did episodes of Frasier, Jag, Alias. We just talked about it where I played Inspector Spacetime's new companion, Constable Edmund. I've done all that kind of stuff, and one of the highlights was touring America with Eric Idle, doing Eric Idle Exploits Monty Python. So I spent almost 6 months touring America, every major theatre. We did 2 nights at Carnegie Hall, we did a night at the Hollywood Bowl, we did a night at the Universal Amphitheatre, but every major theatre in America with Eric Idle doing Monty Python. So I got to do Nudge Nudge Wink Wink and all of that stuff with Eric Idle live audiences around America.
Amazing.
But it's interesting because the audiences here think, well, what have you been doing all this time? I've been working. I did Neville's Island at the Globe in San Diego, doing all kinds of different stuff. So I've been lucky. I've had 20 good years working in America and bounced through television, film and theatre there.
Awesome. Right, let's move on to the reason that we're all here, I think. So, Transformers, tell us about how you got involved in the first live-action film 10 years ago now, which is really scary.
This does go back to the sword thing. Luckily, because as an actor, I've never been closed off to doing whatever comes along. You know, it's about learning, not just your trade as an actor, but learning what everybody else's trade is on the set. So when I got offered to work with Bob Anderson on First Night, they hired me to work with Richard Gere for, first every day for 8 or 9 months. So I did that, and if you see First Night, the very first little sword fight you see is me and Richard Gere doing the sword fight, and I flip the sword in the air and he catches it. So I worked with Bob Anderson, and that job absolutely was the changing of, for me as an actor, understanding what goes on behind the camera. Not just because you're dealing with the technicalities of everything, but you're dealing with the egos, you're dealing with the budgets, you're dealing with the whole setting up of a big fight sequence from behind the camera, getting people into place to do that. And so that really was another turning point, if you like, in my career. And out of that, I got offered to work on a film called King Arthur with Clive Owen and Keira Knightley and Mads Mikkelsen and Johan Grufford and all these guys. And I trained all those guys and choreographed all their action. And it was a huge film. At some point we had 900 extras. We had 900 extras. My sword team was about 50 people. We had 50 stunt guys. We had 10 principal actors with Antoine Fuqua. And I'm not being funny, you have to have it together on a set like that. You cannot be just waffling about because it will go wrong and something will get hurt. And in that kind of job, I'm very organised and I've got everything it should be. So our part of it was very successful. The sword side of it, all that was the stunt side of it. Disney decided to re-edit the film, whatever reasons, it's another element you deal with. In the film game, Disney decided, Antoine Fuqua made Gladiator, Disney wanted a PG-13, so they just chopped the film to pieces and made it a PG-13. So anyway, I got back to Los Angeles. I got this call, I was saying on Monday night, from my agent. He said, I just got back, so word must have gone back from there, because I was working with Jerry Bruckheimer, who produced King Arthur. And said, they want you to go in and meet people in DreamWorks, the casting people. They won't tell you what the film is, they won't tell you anything about it, they're just going to send you some sites, and they want to know if you can do 5 voices at the same time on the set and just be there and be like physically be this character. So I went along to meet the casting people, and she was looking at my CV, and she said, you just worked with Antoine Fuqua. And I said, yeah. She said, what was that like? I said, great, I got on really well with him. She said, but isn't he really intense? Does he really, you know, kind of shouts and screams and drives the set and pushes people, you know what I mean? I said, yeah, no, he can be intense. You know, she said, well, why do you think you got on with him? I said, well, because I'm a professional, it's what I do for a living, and it's my job to give the director what he wants, make it work, you know, under pressure. She said, oh, good, you work well under pressure. I said, yeah, well, no problem. I said, can you tell me something? Is this an Antoine Fuqua film? She went, no. I can't remember, I said, she said, it's much worse, it's Michael Bay. And, she just said it's Michael Bay, I can't remember. It's Michael, if you're listening. And so, 2 weeks later, a week later, whatever it was, I got a phone call saying, we want you on the set, this day, this location, that's what you're doing. And that's how we started. Right from the off, Michael was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. He was fantastic with all of them, with everybody. And that's the first time I saw the very first Camaro drive up the street, that shot we were outside the Whitwick house, and the Camaro came up, and there wasn't anybody in that room that didn't stand and look at that car and go, whoa, that is a beast. What a piece of machinery that is. And Michael basically just said to me, as I said the other night, I was looking at the animatics on his screens, and he said, he looked at me, he said, so, do you understand what this is, what the scene is, this, I said, and I was laughing. And he said, can you see that? Can you see what we're trying to do? I said, yeah, you've got giant alien robots hiding outside a house in suburban Los Angeles at 20. He went, you can see that? I went, yeah, I can see it. And he went, great, let's go. And it's been like that ever since.
That's definitely one of the most memorable scenes, I think, from that first movie. It's
fantastic. And there's another scene which they have lived in the house, and this is another thing about Michael. He likes people to ad-lib. So the scene in the house where they're talking about happy time, that scene was, they made that scene up, they made that scene work, because, are you having happy time? I remember going, oh my God. Very funny, and he lets people just bring stuff in, try stuff out, all does it all the time, but, you know, no, he lets people try stuff out.
So, how did you end up providing the voice for Bumblebee then at the end of the film?
Well, I'd voiced everybody on the set. What I do physically, I've been in now for a decade, is when they have a scene with a robot in it, whoever it is, whether it's Optimus Prime, Megatron, or any of them. So at one time with it, I've been all of them, and doing the dialogue with the actors. So, you know, in the big scene with Francis McDormand, with Buzz Aldrin, where he's talking to Mr. Spock. He was played by Leonard Nimoy. I was him, you know, so in all of those scenes where there is a robot, I'm those robots, so I do all that dialogue with the actors that are there. And during the course of that, lines just get thrown in all over the place. And there's people making stuff up, tossing lines in, and all that kind of stuff. And then I would go in again at the end of the film post-production, and I'll revoice the entire film again for the robots, maybe 3 or 4 times. Because they want to get the scenes edited, they want to try different lines, or try different things and different gags. So that gets post-production, I'll be recording it again. And I must have done those lines. I remember Michael saying to me, just say this, so I said it. But I didn't know who the lines were for. And I didn't know where they were going to be used. I was just said them and we tossed them in. And it's a true story. I literally, towards the end of getting ready for the launch of the film, my agent got a call, and he called me and said they want to use the Bumblebee lines. And I mean, I didn't do any Bumblebee lines. He doesn't talk in the film. And he said, no, they've got you down that you did some Bumblebee lines. And I said, honestly, I don't remember doing any Bumblebee. I don't even know what they are. So he went back and he said, no, we did the Bumblebee lines. So eventually the sound department called me, this is absolutely true, and played them down the phone to me and went, this is you, right? You know, wish to speak, so I wish to stay with the boy. And I said, yeah, that's me. I just thought, well, that's Bumblebee. He went, oh. So they kept it in. Absolutely true.
And what do you make the probably in the following films where it reverts back most of the time to the just using the radio and
we've done lines. We've
voice.
done lines in most of the films for Bumblebee. In various scenes, he has spoken with my voice during the filming to Shia in scenes, and I think they just kind of like prefer the gag of him not being able to
Yeah,
talk.
it's been quite popular with children, I think.
It's been quite popular with kids, and it means that they can use different snippets from different films.
Pop culture, yeah.
Pop culture, John Wayne, you hear these different voices being thrown in, usually from Paramount films, you know, because they don't have to pay the rights to use it. So they've thrown these lines in, which opens up that pop culture they like to say. So we've tried it several times, and they just stuck with that. But to be honest with you, as I've been talking to the fans over there, I've had 10 years of being just like everybody on the set, and they've kept the bits like Jetfire, Lockdown, now Bulldog, but I'm actually scattered throughout the films. If you listen carefully, you'll hear bits of me being Red, you'll hear bits of me being Megatron, you'll hear throughout the series of films. If you listen, you'll hear a difference in the voice, and that's usually me that's either done it during the post-production phase or when we do it on the set. So I'm kind of scattered amongst 5 films in various places, as well as being the ones that are credited.
So did you deliberately come up with a different voice for each character then when you were doing them on set?
Yes.
Could you give us a taste of some characters that we essentially haven't actually heard in the film, but as you voiced them, I've been like, I know, Ironhide, or can you give us your Optimus Prime?
Optimus Prime. Transform and roll out.
It's not bad.
And Peter's been on the set a couple of times, and I like Peter. Peter is one of the most gentle, lovely people you will ever wish to meet, and he appears to me to be incredibly shy. And so, you know, he's a very sort of, but a gentleman, always dapper, always wearing a tie and a blazer, seems very, very chill. I was at his ceremony when he put his hands in the concrete in Los Angeles at Broadway's Theatre. Just, you could see that he was kind of, in a way, just so lovely and shocked to be sort of being, you know, worshipped in this way. And he came on the set once, and I can't remember what scene we were doing. I think it was in Revenge of the Fallen. And I was running around the set after Michael like a lunatic. And I sat down in the chair, and he was sitting next to me, he looked at me and went, I don't know how you understand what is going on. I don't know how you are dealing with this. And I said, I cheat because I have an earpiece in, so I can hear what the sound guys are telling me. They're usually setting up computers, so they tell me what's coming next. So I said, I cheat, I have to cheat. But he was always said, I couldn't do this, I don't know how to do it. There's just so much going on, and you get used to it. But he's lovely. So I have done all of that. I've done all the various backgrounds on this, so including the Megatron.
And the last thing, and then we'll open to questions.
Sure.
So, obviously the movie's been out well, the first movie's been out for 10 years now. There's been a lot of mixed reaction, and there have been some fans who have been been a fan of it. And what kind of take do you have on the films and some of the reactions to the films?
I know it's kind of weird. Obviously, I'm going to defend what we've been doing because you know, it's kept me engaged for the last 10 years. I had known. When the original cartoons came out in the UK in the sort of early 80s, I was shooting Robin the Sherwood, so I never got a chance to see it. So I had no particular idea. The only thing I knew later on was that I knew kids that had Transformers, and so, you know, they wanted to watch Transformers on television. But again, by that point, I'd already kind of moved past all that phase. I was already into the next phase of my career. So, you know, Transformers, I knew it was on the telly, but I didn't understand or watch really, you know, I mean, what they were doing. So I had no emotional connection to it, which in a way I think was good for the shift from what we were trying to do with the films. And Michael was very clear about this, and I agree with him for those that disagree. Putting a big blocky sort of cartoon image on the screen nowadays with the definition of digital and 3D, well, I don't know whether you could sit through a film for 3 hours with just that type of imagery. Visually, it would be difficult to make that look interesting. So when they started showing me how the vehicles transformed in the movies, I went, yeah, this is going to be great, because I didn't know how it was going to, until I started seeing it when Michael was editing this week, and how the vehicles could transform. Then I went, oh yeah, this is why they're doing it this way, because digitally, it's much more interesting on the screen. There's so much material there to watch. So for me, this generation, and Michael gets a lot, again I'll defend him because it's the way I feel about it. Michael A is one of the most loyal people to the people that he works with. But he's also loyal to the family. And people don't get it. I mean, when he says, I make these films for the fans, he's making it for the fans. He's got a very youthful, very sort of, childlike, emotional reaction to the characters, which is very sincere and very pure in a way. I mean, obviously, without giving any secrets away, I think, Bumblebee is probably his favourite character. And he has a relationship with him. And he's very loyal, wants to give the fans what they want to see. And so I know there's this divide between G1 and we've been doing it 10 years. But to be honest with you, I think the films gave Transformers a whole new breath of life.
Absolutely. I think no one, whether you're a fan of the films or not, I think no one can deny the fact that 10 years ago it's just injected a lot of interest and certainly an awful lot of money into the fandom. And I don't know about other people, I certainly wouldn't be here. I got back into Transformers when the films came out, so I think they've definitely had a huge impact, and no one would wish that they'd never been made to be sure to some like more than others, but I think, yeah.
He's given the whole franchise a lease of life, not just this 10 years, but probably for the next 20 years.
Absolutely.
This will keep Hasbro creating new designs and new things. And a shout out to ILM, the guys at ILM, because those designers, the guys that come up with the visuals for this stuff and make this stuff real, one of, to me, the greatest successes of this show is we only ever built one Bumblebee robot. That's the only one we built. It's the one I've got the photograph of there, over there. He was 17 feet tall and he weighed 2 tons. So moving him around the set was an absolute nightmare. And Baymaker, we've got to do this CGI. We need to keep moving. So the ILM guys came up with terabytes of memory, bringing these characters to life. And to me, one of the greatest successes, victories, is creating a Bumblebee and an Optimus Prime, those are the characters, which are basically digital renderings. And what the audience reacts to emotionally are the human qualities that have been able to be put into those characters by the ILM, artists. That to me is amazing. These things aren't actually there. We react to them though as if they were almost human beings, and they lock in a royalty into each of those characters. That's an amazing success for the artists there to be able to do that. And the ILM guys, big shout out to Scott and all the guys. They've done amazing work.
Yeah, the designers are really detailed, aren't they?
Yeah.
Better than a lot of CGI you get in other big budget films, I think. Right, we've got some time. Yeah, we've got about another 20 minutes for some questions, so I'm going to run round.
20 minutes.
Maybe 15, we'll see.
I've got to be in the bar in 10 minutes. No, I haven't.
How's it going?
How you doing? Living the dream.
I was just wondering if there's you can tell us about the 6th film, if you're going to be actually voicing Bumblebee full on, like instead of having him talk to the radio. I wonder if you could actually...
I don't know if it's background noise, but I can't quite hear clearly what you're saying, so you want to just repeat the question so you... Oh, where they go from here is a mystery, to be honest with you. I don't honestly know. It was kind of... I knew he was going to speak in the film, in this last one, but I surmised that they would probably go in a different direction. and I wasn't at all, hurt by it. I mean, as I say, I've been lucky enough to be other characters in the film, including Lockdown and Jetfire and Al Bulldog. So when I actually saw what they'd done, I was like, good luck to the kid. He's a brilliant sound designer, the guy that's done this. Is it Alex that did the voice? And I think they want to go in a different direction for the next phase of all of this, particularly if Michael doesn't want to do it, which I would understand if he didn't. What people don't understand is, for him, for Michael, this is in your life on a daily basis for 10 years. He's involved with every aspect of the script, the storyline, the design, everything. So for almost 10 years, other than Pain and Gain in 13 hours, this has been his daily stuff. He's been dealing with this for days. So I would understand that he wants to go, you know what, it's time to hand it over. Go hands off and let them go in whatever direction they want to go in. And so I would imagine that that's what they'll do. They'll spin off it, and I don't think they're coming back to me. But Bulldog doesn't die. Jetfire is well established in the prehistory of all of this, and so is Lockdown. So I don't know, we might see those characters come back in a prequel or something, because the Bumblebee films, apparently is a prequel. They're set in the 60s, or the 70s, I think, I think it's the 70s. So who knows, we may see the return of one of those characters. But no, right at this moment, I'm committed to 2 other projects. I'm filming one right now here in England, and another one I'll be doing straight after this in Hong Kong. So I'm kind of booked up to the end of the year, so I don't know what they want to do. They'll have to let me know quick if they do. Thank you.
Hello, the first half of my question is, how awesome is this jacket?
That's very cool.
Bit of a Jetfire thing
Very
going
cool,
on.
very cool.
And the second half of my question is, what does it sound like if Lockdown prank calls Jetfire?
If Lockdown
Prank calls Jetfire.
prank call Jetfire. Like if you called and gone,
Hello, this is AT&T. We have a special offer for you on your cell phone, which means you'll be able to call intergalactically for only 2p a minute. Now the strange thing about this new cell phone offer, if you don't take it, Jetfire, I will come and kill you!
Woo!
something like that, you mean?
Okay, any more questions? Thumbs up?
You've got to ask a question. If you don't ask questions, I start asking you questions, and it all goes sideways.
Hello.
Hello.
I'll stand up. I was going to ask you about if you were going to be involved in the Bumblebee movie, but you've already answered that question for me.
Okay.
And the other thing is that there's children here, but I was going to ask you to say bollocks like Jetfire is.
I think you just asked me to say bollocks, is that right?
It is, yeah. Like Jetfire does though when he leaves the airport.
Well, I'll tell you the true story about that, because it is... I was actually in the studio, we were ad-libbing lines when he's escaping from the Smithsonian, and there was not really much there, just, there was like, American sort of, curses and stuff, and he wasn't really working, and Michael said to me, what would you say? And so I ran through a couple of things, because there's kids here, I won't repeat it. He said, no, we can't use that, everybody knows that. And one of the things that came out of my mouth was, bollocks. And literally, people look at me and they went, what does that mean? I'm not being funny, in America, they don't know what that one is, they know what the other one is. And I said, well, actually, there's a dagger that's used in rapier and dagger. It's called a bollocks dagger. It's absolutely true. And it's got like 2 cups that covers your hand, and the dagger comes out between your fingers like that. It's called a bollocks dagger. And there was a moment of disbelief, and I heard somebody go, let's just check that. And the voice from the control room came back and went, no, he's right, it's a dagger, we can use it, it's no problem. Absolutely true, it's absolutely true. audience, which is they have to recut it to fit the television thing. So I get a phone call from Ian Bryce. He goes, "You cheeky so-and-so, you've got to come back here and redo that line." And I went, you know, because he's British. He went, well, I'm thinking, you know, he went, when I heard it, I went, that's not going to stay in the cut for the television version. We have to clean it up. She said, you've got to come in and redo it. And I went, okay. So they paid me to go back into the studios. It's absolutely true. And they said, well, come up with something else. And they said, say this or say that. We tried that, didn't work. So eventually said, well, what would you say? And I said, well, my mum would say cobblers. What a lot of cobblers. And he went, what does that mean? I said, don't worry about it. It's the same as your mum. It's absolutely true. I'm not making it up. So they actually paid me to swap the line "oh bollocks" for the word "oh cobblers," and he went out on American television. Absolutely true. And all the time I'm doing Ray Winston anyway, my mate Ray, who called me and went, "Marky, you cheeky bugger. I've been gangsters, I've been Beowulf, and now I'm China-hating robot. You're doing me. You owe me a beer, Marco." All right, mate.
I was wondering if you're into any of the other Transformers media besides the films, and if so, who's your favourite character?
It's really difficult to hear because of the ambient noise.
The question was, are you into any of the Transformers media outside of the films, and if so, what is your favourite character?
Outside of the films? Well, I did go back once I realised how much trouble I was in. I went back and started to read the whole history more of Cybertron and all of that stuff, and the characters particularly. And I was amazed at how complicated and complex and intertwined all these storylines were. The character development, frankly, of all these different characters. So the only studying I've done really of the universe per se is when I've been looking at the relationship between different characters and their history and life on Cybertron. Other than that, I really haven't had much chance because I've been working most of the time. But I was very impressed with the depth of writing and the bringing together of these characters and the traits that each one has got. So that I was very impressed by that. And now, obviously, when we start a new version of the film, I go back in again and research all of that background. So I've got it in the back of my head. I mean, for the most part, we don't use it because we haven't got the script. So you're following the script and the history of it. And obviously, Michael's throwing in some new stuff now with the new writers' room, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. I really loved the idea of the King Arthur stuff and the idea of, you know, the Autobots, Decepticons hiding historically, which is a step taken from Jetfire, because Jetfire is a seeker that's been on Earth for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years. So the idea that they've been here and been hidden amongst us, that a group knew about them, but, you know, it was never common knowledge. I thought that was a brilliant idea. I love all that stuff, the conspiracy things. Let me tell you, when we did Dark of the Moon, I talked to Buzz Aldrin, I've talked to guys at NASA, and there's a lot of nudge, wink, wink about this stuff. Because people talk about what flies about in our atmosphere, and some of it definitely is our stuff, right? We build stuff that we, the common public, don't know that they built. It's secret. And when I was at NASA, I talked to them about that, the engineers. So there's a lot of stuff flying about that we have not yet seen, and they are years ahead of where we think they are. But there is other stuff up there which people go, we don't know what that is. We don't know how that works. And it's one of those things that people don't talk about, either at JPL or at NASA. They just kind of go, yeah, we don't talk about that. We don't know what that is. So to me, it was fascinating that they did talk about, you know, the other mission to the moon, the Apollo 20, I think it was, which people just don't talk about. And I had some very interesting conversations with scientists at NASA about that. Because I knew stuff about stuff that they were going, we don't talk about that. We can't talk about that. We're not allowed to say that. So very interesting.
Okay, we'll do last couple of questions. Anyone else? I'll go away from this.
There's a lady there right behind us.
Yeah, okay, we'll do this one and one more.
I just want to ask you 3 have a favourite between Bumblebee, Jetfire and Lockdown?
Well, I'll be honest, simply because as an actor and as a role and a character, Lockdown was one of the best developed and multi-layered characters to get into, because he was ambivalent morally where he was about the war between these two races and where he stood with Earth. And so that was very interesting to play and to try and get into that character. And again, I know I've told this to some of the guys over there, but I was actually watching an advert in my trailer before I went down. I had no idea what I was going to do down there in this character. And I was watching an advert, there was an advert on American television for Jaguar cars. And the line was something like, you know, why are all the villains in films British? Is it a certain sort of style? Is it a certain panache? And I went, oh, maybe something like that would work. And I had, funny enough, Anthony Hopkins in my head, and Anton Chigurh from No Country for Old Men. So I went down onto the set. We were filming in this big dock area where they blew up the boat. And the sound guys, you know, we work very well technically together, so this sounds weird. I know nobody think when you do voice, you think, oh, you're just going to a booth and do this. I am running at the side of the camera car, looking at the monitor with Michael Bay on my shoulder here, right? And I said to the guys, I'm going to do this really quietly, so pump up the sound. On the speakers, I have big speakers like these, but 5 times the size of these on the set, so that everybody can hear what I'm saying. So I said, pump up the sound, because I'm going to do it quite quietly. So I'm running at the side of the car with headphones on and Michael there, he's like cueing me when he wants stuff to happen. And as we're going in for that first scene, that's what I did. Autobots, Decepticons, always making a mess. And then I have to clean it up. But because of the speakers and they jacked up the sound, it echoed round this dock where the boat was, like the voice of God. Literally, the entire crew were like, what? Where is that coming from? And I knew we got to the end of the travel where we pushed the camera in running at the side of the thing. I nearly got run over by the car, that was fun. Mike had to pull me away, Brandon took me away. And I turned around, he looks at me and he went, so I knew we were on the right track then. That's how we developed Blonde. So as absolutely humbling, amazing it is to be involved and recognise as linked to Bumblebee, which is one of the most popular characters in the world. Wherever I have gone, and let me tell you, I have gone all over the world, Bumblebee is beloved of the fandoms, and I'm just very humbled to be associated with it. As an acting job, to bring a character to life with depth and with a different, layered thing, Lockdown was without doubt one of the funnest to do. So, thank you for the question.
Okay, we'll have one last question. Anyone? Let's go over here.
Hi. Hello.
Hello, mate. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Don't be nervous. Come on now. Come on, don't be nervous now. Come on, ask me.
If you could
No, come on now. Come on, mate.
If you could voice Unicron, what would he sound like?
Oh God, I don't know. That's I don't know. I'd have to go away and think about that. It's not one of the ones that has ever kind of floated to the surface. I don't know whether it would just be sort of very deep, very thoughtful, or whether it be sort of whispering a bit sibilant, you know, a little bit sort of, I don't know what we're going to do with you. I think I don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean, he's such a huge character that you either got to play deep and really sonorous and scary, and from the vibration really low, or a little bit higher up and a bit sort of more like a serpent, more like a whispering dragon sort of thing. But I'd have to go away and think about that, because it's such a huge character. I don't want to end your career right here doing that. But thank you for the question. I'll think about it. Maybe they'll ask me at some point in the future.
Okay, that's all the time we've got for today. So thank you so much, Mark, for coming and speaking to us. I think it was really